And we're recording. Hello, everyone. How are you today?
That was to me.
Yeah, you are part of everyone.
Be specific, man, because I am not everyone.
You are part of everyone.
I'm not like Whitney Houston, where I'm every woman.
Just like I am part of everyone, you are also part of everyone.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm coming to you live and direct from my couch because I want to be with my little buddy here, my dog. His name is Sirius Black, and he's such a cute dog. He's big. He's like 110 pounds.
Dang, he big boy.
And he's a Shar-Pei lab mix, and he is so adorable. You know, he likes to play tricks on me. Sometimes, right, I'm brushing my teeth in my bathroom, and he just comes in there, and he farts, and then he leaves. You believe this little shit? Oh, I love him, though. He's hilarious. Or sometimes he farts when you're walking behind him, and you're going up the stairs.
He just crop dusts you while you're trying to get to your destination.
Face. Right in your face, man, I tell you. But he's a sweet little guy. He's sweet.
Does he sometimes like to wear white tablecloths and mimic everything you're doing?
No, but that'd be funny as hell. Well, he's a black dog too.
It's a callback to a previous episode.
Yeah, I think last week, if I'm not mistaken.
It was our last episode, and if you have missed that, go get yourself caught up on that. But yeah, so you got a dog, and the dog is vibing with you on the couch. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was a little feverish this morning, so I'm gonna be around him so that he's not alone. Cause he doesn't like to come upstairs with me in my office. I don't know why. He likes to stay down here.
Ah. Well, good boy for farting on you.
Oh, he's a little troll, man. But he's cute. He's the sweetest dog in the world.
Dog. Well,
Dog catcher.
Sounds like you're having a good one.
Yeah, I think he appreciates it.
Mm-hmm. Whereas I am very, very angry, folks. My blood is boiling right now, thinking about this very topic. I lost my earbuds and I can't find them.
Oh.
And the fact that I can't find them makes me very angry. And I had them just last night. And I don't know where they went. I have the case. They weren't in there. Sometimes I keep opening the case, hoping that they'll magically manifest. But every time I open them up to experience disappointment.
And you were at work too.
Yeah.
So you had to dredge through work. What? Dredge through work. So you had to go through work with no.
Well, I
entertainment.
kind of can, you know, like if it's like an audiobook or something, I can kind of listen to it, but it's just not the same. Like I need to have it directly transmitted into my earlobes and into my brain. Otherwise,
that's a problem with these wireless.
Yeah. When are we going to like get surgical implements to where we can just graft them onto us, you know?
Oof.
Instead of just buying earbuds, what if we could just be like cyborgs and have, you know, earbuds just surgically grafted onto our faces?
Well, I'm looking to get an ear job where I'm looking to lose ears from my face. Seriously, I got the biggest ears in the world.
Your ears ain't that big.
Oh, come on, man. Looks like two taxi doors coming down the street with a taxi that's open.
Who has ever come up to you and be like, "Yo, Martin, your ears are big." Like, well, nobody.
There was this one time where I was walking down the street and this stupid screams out of a car, "Look, it's Spock!"
Damn, I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
Bleep what out?
You just
look at you censoring son of a bitch.
Sorry, we gotta be user friendly. You just can't let the verbal diarrhea get the better of you.
Well, that son of a monkey. How about that? That woman, she hurt my feelings. I was only in the 7th grade, and that was that field trip where they said I stole a bike. I didn't steal a bike just because a guy has on a green shirt and a guy who stole the bike has a green shirt on. They blame me. That was a horrible trip, man. In the 7th grade, they took us to like some island somewhere where we had to have a school bus. And that was a terrible trip. My feelings got hurt by some wench. Yeah, I used the word wench. How about that? Let's go back to the freaking 1800s. By some wench. So, and I get accused of stealing a bike.
You're still not over this.
No, it was. I guess it was traumatic in a way because I still remember it. I still remember what the street looked like when that wench said that word to me. Said those words to me.
I don't know what to tell you on that front. Like, the false accusation, yeah, I can understand that could possibly be traumatic. The comment about the ears seems something that I would probably not be bothered about at your age, but, it's like, I don't know. Well, maybe, I don't know. We all have we have like parts of our body which we are most sensitive, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I should not minimize that, I guess.
I tell you, I'm a good looking guy, but the problem is I can't afford to get any more ugly, man.
What?
I need braces. I need my ears done. And then I'll be straight. Then I'll be a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. Right now I'm about a 6.5 because of my teeth and these big old ears of mine.
Are you trying to become a Chad all of a sudden?
Nah, I'm just trying to look in the mirror and be happy with myself. I'm insecure like a lot of people are, man.
That's understandable.
Oh, did I tell you about the jaw surgery, though, that they want me to do? They won't even do braces on me, though.
Oh, yeah. You told me about that like a long time ago, that you need to get some kind of jaw surgery before they even consider braces.
Yeah, man. They're like, yeah, go see this jaw specialist because you have a slight overbite. I'm like, okay. So I see this jaw specialist, right? And it's going to be about $15,000 to $21,000 to do jaw surgery. Now I'm a teacher, right? Where am I going to get that kind of money?
Is your insurance going to cover it?
Well, so I also have sleep apnea, which is I'm not fat, y'all. There we go with that.
Wait, what does that have to do with sleep apnea?
You're right. It doesn't have anything to do, but a common misconception about sleep apnea is it only occurs in overweight people. But no, it can occur from the way your body's shaped. And that may be the reason why I have sleep apnea, because my lower jaw is pushed back slightly than my top jaw. So that may be the reason why I have sleep apnea, because sleep apnea is actually caused by not enough airflow through your neck as you sleep. Because when you sleep, the back of your throat relaxes, and as it relaxes, it gets kind of swollen a little bit, but it's relaxed. And if something like this, where your jaw is pushed back slightly, your lower jaw, that can lead to sleep apnea. And I have a real good doctor on it too, and he's I did a test. He said you have moderate sleep apnea.
Ooh, moderate, not mild, but moderate.
Yeah, moderate.
Ay. Truly.
But man, I can go all day talking about my physical flaws.
But you are made in the image of the Lord, and that's all that matters. God has some big ears.
But still though, as much as physically flawed as I am, I saw this news article that today. Well, not today, but sometime earlier last week, I saw this news article that really disheartened me and actually made me feel guilty.
Tell us about it.
All right, so check this out, y'all. So, one of the classes that I'm teaching is about the global issues that face us all in this world. And I was just doing some research so I can present some current events to my class so we can share some current events. And one of these current events that I saw really just made me shake my head and just ponder life for 5 minutes. You know, it's the kind of stuff where it slaps you across your face like your mama does. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And this is from The Guardian. It's from The Guardian, and it's under environment, climate crisis, and the title reads like this. The climate crisis is destroying the human rights of those least responsible for it. By Patrick Verkoijen, sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, and A.K. Abdul Momin. I think I got that one right.
That one was much easier. We don't speak Dutch on Ministry Modus, as it turns out, despite having a viewer in the Netherlands. You know who you nice. Are.
Well, thank you for listening. But yeah, so this really speaks to who suffers the most for the lifestyles that we live. And it makes me feel guilty as an American, as a citizen of the United States of America, in a country that is very abundant, in a country that is very wealthy. It just makes me feel guilty. So let's talk more about this little story.
Mm-hmm. You want to take the lead on this?
Yeah, man. So when you click on this article, right, you see this photograph that shows what looks like a village.
It looks like
a flooded village, maybe?
Yeah, it looks like it's in Bangladesh.
No. Oh, yeah, because it says in the caption, intensifying floods have forced hundreds of thousands of Bangladeshis to migrate inland.
Mm-hmm. And what looks like the neighborhood, you know, it's like a bunch of it's like houses, not quite what you'd call shacks, I guess, but they're more like houses, and they're just made out of tin walls, tin roofs, you know, kind of like, and they're pretty rusted up. So
yeah,
not exactly screaming affluence here, you know.
Yeah, and and it shows two kids in like a what would you call that? It looks like a little bowl.
I don't know what the hell bowl, that is. Rather. It looks like a big giant bowl that
looks like a satellite almost. Satellite dish maybe?
Because it looks like it's made out of concrete or something like that. I'm not sure, but it does look like a giant bowl. And there's some straw inside of it. And it looks like an older woman and a young boy. And she has, like, this entire place is completely flooded, by the way, with some really dirty looking water.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And the water level, like, is going up to the roofs at this point. There are literally, there's like a kid, there's like these teenagers right behind them on top of the roof, with water just rising, and there's like these little, they look like very makeshift rafts almost. It looks like they're made out of like leaves and stuff, leaves and wood, whatever they can see that, whatever they could get their hands on.
They're triangular shaped too.
Yeah, they almost look like canoes of sorts. But yeah, this is a very that's tough to look at. Like, the longer you look at it, the worse it gets. But yeah, do you want to keep reading?
Yeah, so basically this article starts out with how climate change or climate breakdown is making a mockery of human rights. Interesting thesis there, or claim, or our main argument. So continuing, start with the most fundamental right of all, the right to life, liberty, and security. Well, 2 million people have died as a result of a 5-fold increase in weather-related disasters in our lifetime. And given that 90% of these deaths have occurred in developing countries, which have contributed the least to global heating, the climate crisis is making a mockery of the notion that we are all born equal, as the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights and numerous national constitutions assert. So, but yeah, I mean, that, you know, it's interesting to me because as an American, you know, I'm grateful. See, as an American, I should say, as a citizen of the United States of America. So I'm grateful to enjoy relatively few privileges that many people across the world don't have. But still, man, I want it for everybody. You know, I want to share the wealth. That's why when I go to my other job, because I got 2 jobs, that's why when I go to one job, I give candy for everybody because, man, I want to share the wealth. And if we give, we receive, right? We receive because other people want to give back.
Sometimes.
And so I think about that too, and I feel a little guilt as well, even though, man, we should definitely, our government should do something more about this, but you say user friendly, right? So I can't use the euphemism of, I mean, not euphemism, but metaphor of, all right, let me try to say this a little better.
Okay.
So our governments of these quote unquote developed countries, it seems like they're not really serving the interests of being world citizens, right? Of thinking of every man and woman as our brother and our sister. They're too busy getting money from these special interest groups that have a direct opposition to stopping or reversing or at least making climate change, the effects of climate change, less intense because they'll lose money off of it. And so that's one thing that really angers me, man, also about this. And the people that suffer across the board are women, children, and people of color. If you look around in the world, man, women and children and people of color, in that combination, man, they suffer the most for the policies of the quote-unquote developed countries.
Yeah, you could technically consider this a form of environmental racism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
Although I would say unconscious racism, I guess, because I don't think they're literally doing it to be racist.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Like, now granted, environmental racism is more like to do with, you know, waste and where that waste goes.
Yeah, where that waste goes, yeah.
And who has to deal with the waste. Obviously, it's used primarily in that context, but it does also apply to climate change as well. And obviously, this affects mostly the global south, you know, Central, South America, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, those places.
You know, and it just reminds me too, man, of this song that I recently rediscovered by the Ghetto Boys, called "The World Is a Ghetto." And they got this, in the Ghetto Boys, they got this rapper named Bushwick Bill. And man, woo! Look at the knowledge that he's gonna drop as I'm about to quote. And by the way, all the N-word that he uses, the N-word, I'm gonna replace that with brothers.
There
all right?
Good idea.
That's all us white folks around the world, right? Us white boys, white girls, whatever. That's a good way to think about it. If you want to, if you want to quote some rap lyrics, ain't got the N-word in it. Just say brothers. All right. All right. So yeah, drop this knowledge, Bushwick Bill. So he says on his verse, he's like 500 brothers died in guerrilla warfare in the village in Africa, but didn't nobody care. They just called up the goddamn grave digger, and said, "Come get these mother effing brothers." Just like they do in the 5th Ward, in the South Park, in the Bronx, in the Watts. You know, they got cook crops working for the system, making poor mother effers out of victims, because don't nobody give a F about the poor It is a double jeopardy if you're black or Latino. They got their mother effing drugs in the slums, got us killing one another over crumbs. Think I'm lying? Well, mother effer, I got proof. Name a section in your city where minorities group, and I'm gonna show you prostitutes, dope in the hard times, and a murder rate that never declines. And little babies sitting on the porch, smelling smelly, crying 'cause they ain't got no food in their bellies. They call my neighborhood a jungle, and me an animal, like they do the people of Rwanda. Fools fleeing the country to come back here, black. But see, they see the same BS and they head right back. They find out what the brothers already know, that the world is a ghetto. So, I tell you, man, rap is one of the greatest musical art forms ever. I mean, the wordsmith and the lyricism that a brother has to have to get on the mic and rap, man, woo, that takes some intellectual ferocity and intellectual superiority to be able to do that.
Preach.
I'll put Rakim and Nas up against any other musical genre.
I would like to try to hear Ben Shapiro try to repeat that song.
Well, I don't know. Since he's not an avid rap listener, he would probably screw up and say the N-word.
What if would it be funny, though, if he actually does listen to rap in secret, even though he publicly trashes it? Like, he's just got, like, an entire collection of, like, Dr. Dre or...
Oh, nice.
And he's just, like, when he gets off the air, you know, going off whatever hate speech bullshit that he's on about, he just, like, goes into his, like, chamber... And he has, like, this old vinyl set for some reason.
Well, and he's smoking a big old joint.
Yeah, and he's just vibing on his couch while his wife is, like, going for some other man.
Well, no, and he's got Bone Thugs and Harmony on, playing the weed songs. He's smoking a joint. Higher, higher, baby.
We just imagined a Ben Shapiro that is infinitely better than the one that will ever be.
You gotta love those grifters, though, man.
Yeah, but not when.
I don't get it, man. I don't get these grifters, right? Because I listen to a guy on YouTube called RM Brown, and man, he has fun. He dunks on their videos because he's like, man, these guys are morons. These guys, like Steven Crowder and Dave Rubin. Oh my God, dude. I don't want to say anything negative, but the ignorance is scary, man. Scary.
Yeah, but how much of it is ignorance and how much of it is just lying? Like,
yeah.
Like, how many people out there actually believe the bullshit that they're saying? Or they're just saying it to make money and they don't care. I don't know which one's actually worse, honestly.
I think maybe they don't believe it, but since they're making money off of it, hey, they're like, hey, if this sells, it's like sex, right?
Yeah.
They're like sex workers.
Yeah, that would be grifting. Well, I don't know. No, I disagree with that. No, wait a minute.
I like sex workers. I don't want to call them grifters.
Sex work's not comparable to that.
As long as consensual sex work, man, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I love those. I think they're saints, man. Sex workers.
It's a form of labor just like any other form of labor is. That's just the reality of that.
Yeah, I used to be so uptight when it came to sex. I mean, so uptight. But, man, over the years... I've got more mellow, and I like to think, Rick James' song, Mary Jane? I know you remember that song.
Yes, I do. But do you know what's not sexy, though?
What?
Climate breakdown. We should get back to this article.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I just went off on that tangent just to...
Well, I helped fuel it.
The world's a ghetto, man. But the problem is... we help fuel that, so...
Yeah, well, while we're on the subject now of global ghettoization by capitalism and climate catastrophe, next, consider other fundamental freedoms, such as the right to work, to an education, to own property. These two are being undermined by the climate emergency. UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, estimates that 25 million people are displaced by climate change-related disasters every year, more than twice the number of those forced to flee conflict or violence. rights that most of us take for granted. The right to nationhood, for example, could be soon denied to citizens of island nations if rising sea levels continue unchecked.
And those island countries, man, those are the most pretty countries in the world. Yeah. I'll fight a brother over that. Those are the most pretty countries in the world.
Millions of people live in fucking island countries. And those are the ones most vulnerable to rising sea levels.
Oh, man.
Like, if you are an island, or at least a fucking peninsula, the last thing you want is rising fucking sea levels.
Yeah. Because you'll literally be living in the ocean.
Yeah. Oh, man. The climate crisis is setting back the clock in human progress. More than 2 billion people live in countries with high exposure to climate-related hazards. Their capacity to recover when disaster strikes is limited. And when those are affected are refugees and displaced populations, the impact is simply heartbreaking. When flooding and landslides struck the Rohingya refugee camps in Bangladesh this summer, thousands of people relived the nightmare of losing everything and being displaced yet again. So imagine you're in that fucking position where you've already lost everything once before, and hopefully you think that you're on like the road to recovering a stable fucking life, and then you lose that all over again because of fucking climate change. When a fucking typhoon rolls in, or, floods strike, or landslides occur, and they destroy the camp you're fucking in.
And think about this too, and you try to go to a country and they kick you out, or they don't even let you in. Haiti, United States to the Haitian refugees like we talked about last week.
Don't forget about that one, folks. That's still on fucking going.
I mean, we got money for wars, but we ain't got money to help bring people in this country, to hire more border security and people who can actually, process this stuff.
And here's a little another bit of info from this article. Take the reality of climate refugees. At present, neither they, nor environmental migrants, nor environmentally displaced people are recognized by the 1951 UN Convention on Refugees. They're not entitled to even the minimum protection accorded under international human rights law. This must change.
Well, yeah, because probably by 1951 there was no knowledge, at least, of climate change, or
I don't know about the history of the data, but wouldn't surprise me if there was some research going on or something. Whew, holy shit. Consider also the rights of younger generations who will come of age during the current climate emergency, and the rights of those who have yet to be born. As Greta Thunberg reminds us, should they be denied their fundamental human rights because of our failure to act on climate breakdown? The rights of climate refugees, of young people, and of future generations are now being tested through the courts. Climate litigation is increasing. At the last count, there were more than 1,800 cases outstanding in dozens of countries around the world, rich and poor.
That reminds me of something. Do you know how... So I guess this reminds me of Charles Houston. You ever heard of Charles Houston?
I've heard the name before.
Oh, right. Charles Houston was a lawyer and a teacher of law. And he is notable for being in the Howard Law School, being a teacher there, training such people as Thurgood Marshall. Right? Charles Houston said a lawyer is either a social parasite. A lawyer is either a social engineer or a parasite. And the reason why this reminds me of it is because without Charles Houston, segregation in this country, at least by law, would have been maybe still a thing, or or maybe it would have ended a lot long. Maybe it would have lasted a lot longer than it could have. And the reason I say that is because Charles Houston had a strategy to end segregation that was uniquely capitalist. You know what this dude did? You know what he taught his pupils?
Illuminate us.
He taught them, he said, look, we're not going to win segregation battles in the court. We're not going to win these battles based on an appeal to human rights or an appeal to the conscience of these of the people in power who enforce segregation, Jim Crow. We're going to win it from the pocketbooks, because in a capitalist society, the biggest thing you can do to affect somebody is punch them in the I want to say the D word, but you said I gotta be friendly. You gotta punch them in the pocketbooks.
In the pocketbooks.
Right? And so what Charles Houston did is he taught these lawyers, hey, all right, segregated facilities cost a hell of a lot more than just to, if you want to segregate people, you have to have two, according to that law back then, you have to have two separate but equal facilities, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you're a university, right, if you're a university or educational institution, or you're a private business and you have to have two separate entities, that's going to cost your business or your school more money. So why not just say, you know what? Let's attack them in their pocketbooks. Let's tell them, hey, you really want to make those two separate but equal facilities equal? You really want to make them equal? Well, you got to pay, my man. You got to pay the same amount. And that's when you start to see Brown versus the Board of Education. And that's when you start to see the University of Oklahoma's law school, right? That's when you start to see desegregation and integration. You attack them in the pocketbooks. And I said all that because these court battles, I hope they're attacking this capitalist world system in the pocketbook. Because that's the only way that these people that these people at the top who benefit from this system are going to make change, if you punch them in the dick, and the dick being the pocketbook. There you go. Punch them in the pocketbook.
Well, as effective as that approach was during segregation and Jim Crow, this article takes a different approach regarding,
alrighty,
the punch him in the dick / pocketbook. So, let me see. Make sure I don't lose my place here. All right, continuing on. The Supreme Court of the Netherlands mandated emissions cuts on both the government and Royal Dutch Shell. Families from the European Union, Kenya, and Fiji are taking the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union to court in an attempt to enforce more ambitious climate change mitigation targets. In Pakistan, the Supreme Court has upheld the right of Punjab to protect its water-stressed areas against further industrial development, specifically citing climate change and the rights of unborn generations in its ruling. The tragedy is that tomorrow's generations aren't here to challenge this pillaging of their inheritance. This court should be mindful that its decisions also abdicate upon the rights of the future generations of this country, Justice Syed Mansour Ali Shah said in his summary. But lawsuits are a slow and piecemeal way of enforcing human rights. More importantly, they don't work in countries with weak legal systems or where human rights aren't respected. We will not win the battle against the climate emergency one lawsuit at a time. This is just one of the reasons why the Climate Vulnerable Forum, or CVF, a group of 48 nations on the front lines of climate breakdown, which is supported by the Global Center on Adaptation, has been backing for a motion for a new UN Special Reporter on climate change and human rights since 2019. We are asking the UN Human Rights Council, whose mission is to protect human rights, to create this new position. Only this month, Michelle Bachelet, a former president of Chile and current head of the Human Rights Council, called the triple planetary crisis of climate change, pollution, and nature loss, the greatest challenge to human rights of our era. We agree, and it is why we believe climate threats to human rights deserve a higher priority within the UN. The new special reporter would have a mandate to protect people from the worst impacts of the climate crisis. He or she will have their work cut out. Sea levels are rising, sea ice is retreating, glaciers are melting, and rainfall patterns have become more unpredictable. Extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more intense. The UNHCR predicts the number of climate refugees and displaced people could reach 200 million a year by 2050, nearly double the number today.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, less than 30 years, 200 million people a year could be displaced by this.
Hey, man, I just want to know, can we play this song? We are the world.
I don't know. Will the ghost of Michael Jackson sue us for that?
Oh, Ixnay on the Michael Jackson name. You know, one thing about Michael Jackson, you know, I made a compromise with him, you know?
What?
Well, I'm just saying, right? Because all the allegations against him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say this. Once Michael started turning white, I'm not going to listen to his music anymore. I'm going to just listen to Thriller and Off the Wall. How about that?
I think that's a fair compromise.
Because I don't know.
Thriller does slap, let's be honest.
Yeah. And R. Kelly, I don't think everyone's going to listen to his music again, man. Oh,
Yeah.
God. What a predator.
Mm-mm-mm.
That guy needs to be shot dead. Some things are exaggerated for comedic purposes.
Yeah, we here at Ministry Modus don't support the killing of R. Kelly.
we do support him being locked up for life, though. Yes.
Yeah. Damn, am I gonna have to bleep that out too? You got my work cut out for me for this one. Moving on. The special reporter will have a duty to witness the impact of climate breakdown on human rights firsthand, visiting countries affected by climate disasters and galvanizing action across the family of United Nations organizations and the wider public sphere. There is no time to lose. The longer we delay action to support people who are vulnerable to climate breakdown, the worse the consequences are likely to be, making responses even more complex and costly. And here is where it's starting to get a little bit more grim here.
Oh, yeah.
The UN's top scientist warned in August that even if we were to succeed in reining in emissions, we still face many decades of climate disruption because of the greenhouse gases that are already trapped in the atmosphere. So even if we somehow fucking accomplish that, we're still going to have to live with what we fucked up now. This decision to appoint a UN special envoy on climate and human rights is long overdue. The UN Human Rights Council, currently in session, could take this decision now. This is precisely what the CVF has called for in its manifesto for COP26. By doing so, the Council would demonstrate that the United Nations bodies can take decisive climate measures, a much-needed positive impulse for the Glasgow summit on which our planet's fate hinges. That move is also the international community's strongest signal it is prepared to staunch the climate emergency's hemorrhaging of human rights. We sincerely hope it will. And the article doesn't say this, but when we use the term we, as in like humanity, you know, in our role in the climate catastrophe or climate breakdown, it's not even the majority of humanity's fault.
Preach on that.
It's like a handful of corporations and, you know, like militaries that are fucking out of control, you know?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Curtis Mayfield, man. Destroy all mankind to hurt his own. Ain't no room for them on the train to Jordan.
Yeah, I'm going to look up the percent of like how much of climate change a handful of companies are responsible. Percent of or how many
Yeah, and keep in mind too, we talk about civic online reasoning on this show, so you don't end up like some baby boomers believing everything on Fox News. Well, this article, just a peek behind the curtain, right? Doing some lateral reading, right? Well, first of all, this is an opinion article, of course. So it's an opinion, and it says here to the left of it, global development is supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And it says down here, just some word about the source and the author, Patrick, and I apologize if I butcher this gentleman's name. Patrick Verkooyen is CEO of Global Center on Adaptation. A.K. Abdul Momen, the other author, is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh that is presiding the Climate Vulnerable Forum. So just a little background on that. So you can do some lateral reading and look up both of them on maybe Google or Wikipedia or another search engine and see what you get in terms of the bias or in terms of that kind of stuff.
Good on you for pointing that out, by the way.
Yeah, just a couple things that I noticed there because I teach that to my students. And woo, boy, I tell you, it's very difficult. My students have a tough time with that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, too, while you were talking, I was looking up, those numbers that I was hoping to find.
Yeah.
So from what I'm seeing, 100 companies, or around 100 companies, are responsible for 70 to 71% of global emissions of greenhouse gases.
Okay. Where's your source for that? What is, rather?
Let me pull up some stuff here. So one of them is Harvard Political Review. I will post that in chat so you can take a look at that. Another one, let me see here.
There it is.
One is a Guardian article, which actually cites a study here. The Carbon Majors Report. Let me send that your way. So that's the study that they're citing. It's from a report from this Carbon Majors database. So because we're doing a little bit of a lesson in lateral reading, let's check out who's behind
the information, yeah.
Yeah. So, Carbon Majors database. Let's see what this first one leads me to. Nope, that's the same report. Climate Accountability Institute. Links to the same one, but it's not really what I'm looking for. Although it does have a really cool animated chart tracking the greenhouse emissions by a bunch of companies. Chevron and ExxonMobil taking lead, but Saudi...
yeah. Speaking of that, there's an oil spill in California off the coast.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Destroyed one. Yeah, I just saw it on local news today. What about them Saudi Arabian bastards?
Saudi Aramco, like, in the 2000s, just fucking skyrockets. Like, they just accelerate. Like, here, let me show you this.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm very biased against Saudi Arabia.
The state, not the folks who live there, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So it'll be climateaccountability.org.
I tell you.
And this only captures a handful of them. Let's see, where else?
Cause man, the reason why we're doing this, you'll be like, man, why y'all doing this? Well, think about it, right? Think about this, ladies and gentlemen out there. Let me give you an example of something I actually taught my students. Mm-hmm. You can do this too, Cornbread. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen out there. Speaking of which, hey, this is the first interactive podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, interact with us. Go into Google and put No. You know what? Go into the search bar and put www.cis.org. Do that. And what comes up? What comes up?
CIS.org, huh?
Yeah. What comes up?
I get Center for Immigration Studies. Low immigration, pro-immigrant.
All right. This sounds good, right? And it's a .org, right? So this seems like it'd be a credible source for immigration, right?
Oh, of course. Why would anything that says .org ever lie to me on the internet?
So here's what we do. Here's what we do. Lateral reading, ladies and gentlemen. So pull up another tab on your computer, ladies and gentlemen out there in Podcastlandia. So what you want to do, pull up another tab and go to Google and put Center for Immigration Studies. Or you can go to Wikipedia and put in Center for Immigration Studies. So once you've done that, once you put in Center for Immigration Studies in Google, scroll down a little bit, see what kind of search results you get, and show some click restraint. Don't just click on the first one.
Mm-hmm. So, can I tell you what I found so far?
What'd you find?
All right. This is not the very first thing, because the very first thing you find is the actual website for Center for Immigration Studies. So Wikipedia, the most trustworthy and reliable source in the universe.
It depends on the citation, but yeah.
Yeah. The Center for Immigration Studies is an anti-immigration think tank. It favors far lower immigration numbers and produces analyses to further those views. The CIS was founded by historian Otis L. Graham and eugenicist and white nationalist John Tanton.
Whoa. Well, let's see if that's cited, though, because that's a bold claim. Let's go to Wikipedia and see if that's cited, because I don't see it, because I'm on the Wikipedia article for Center for Immigration Studies right now, but I'm not seeing that specific thing cited, so I don't know if I'm believing that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Let's see here. Does the website? I'm going to check their own website.
I'm going to go to Southern Poverty Law Center, Center for Immigration Studies.
Yeah.
And they back that up.
Oh.
They corroborate. They agree with that Wikipedia article.
Oh, Center for Immigration Studies fucking just straight up admits it. Otis Graham, founding chairman, University of North Carolina.
But do they admit to John Tanton?
I'm looking for that. That doesn't seem to be listed for some reason. Vernon Briggs. Why? Is there a reason they might leave that out?
Well, according to the according to the Southern Poverty Law Center and also Wikipedia, but Wikipedia doesn't have a citation for that. So I'm using the Southern Poverty Law Center. It was founded in 1985 by John Tanton, and the Southern Poverty Law Center, the SPLC, labels it a hate group,
mm-hmm.
Anti-immigrant hate group.
Apparently.
And according to the SPLC, they repeatedly circulated white nationalist and anti-Semitic writers in their weekly newsletter and commissioning of a policy analysis in 2016. So,
yeah, he might not have been a founder, but he might have been heavily involved. Yeah, the one is the article you're reading say the organized anti-immigration movement, increasingly a bit with racist hate groups, is dominated by one man, John Tanton, from Southern Poverty Law Center?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. That's
okay,
right.
because that is cited. That seems to have some evidence to it.
Yeah.
Why would they not want to talk about it? Why would someone who is has a history of white nationalism and pro-eugenicist leanings be something that someone you might not want to associate yourself with?
And and this website sounds so official, right? Center for Immigration Studies. It sounds so official.
Like the fact
it's a .org, but that doesn't mean anything.
It gives itself away, though, if you're a little skeptical when the subtitle for, say, low immigration. And of course, when you look at some of the other things that raise an eyebrow, like these media interviews, some thumbnails of interviews from Fox News reporters.
Oh, great.
What else is there that might kind of raise my suspicion? Biden wants to make it worse. 2021 border tour videos. Podcast tracking the polls on immigration. Oh, these motherfuckers like the podcast too, don't they? Well, gosh, why? Are you sure this isn't reliable? It even says at the bottom here it's an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit research organization. It's the nation's only think tank devoted exclusively to research and policy analysis of the economic, social, demographic, fiscal, and other impacts of immigration. They're the only one. They're the only organization that does this exclusively. Literally, no other organization on earth tackles any of this shit.
Orange's anus face claim.
Yeah. Wow.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's a good example of how you cannot always trust the .org, and you can't always trust something that sounds so official.
You gotta be more interested in sources than what headlines actually say.
Yes.
Wow. We learn so much every day. But holy shit. Yeah. So not only do we get another wake-up call about the effects that climate breakdown is happening. I don't even like calling it climate change because that just makes it sound like, the weather. It makes it sound almost impotent. Whereas,
it's like when somebody calls the transatlantic slave trade a migration.
Yeah, the slaves just came over.
They just migrated over here.
They just arrived. I don't know how don't know how they got there. I mean, gosh, golly gee, how you get there? Well, while you're here, you want a job
for life, and we won't pay you.
And we have like maybe 10 minutes before we actually get into our subject here. I have a spontaneous rant to go off of.
Ran along. I do that enough on this show. What's your verbal diarrhea look like?
My verbal diarrhea looks like people don't want to work. Nobody wants to work anymore. That shit.
I've heard that a lot.
Oh yeah, it's still an ongoing thing. People don't want to work anymore. Why doesn't anyone want to work for me? It's like this shitty whining. And the thing that legit makes me angry about it too are when businesses who are hiring will post some shitty little sign that's like, stimulate your asses by getting a job. And then they'll have a sign right next to it and it's like, hiring. It's like, wow, imagine you're an employer, right? You're running a business and you want people to work for you. Like, is it a good idea for me to walk up to you like, I think you're a potential employee or wage slave or whatever you want to be? And the first way I convince you to work for me is to spit directly into your face. And then I'm like,
disgusting.
After I've just disrespected you, I'm like, hey, come work for me. That's the tone I get. And I'm in a Facebook group literally called No One Wants to Work. And it's full of like these...
Why are you torturing yourself?
Because it's funny. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Oh gosh. No one wants to... Why is it not showing up? What the hell? I'm in this group. Come on. Does it not exist anymore? Did it get zucked? Did Mark Zuckerberg destroy No One Wants to Work in all caps? Oh no, it's right there. Never mind. I'm just dumber than shit. So I'm trying to find... Like, I saw like a post about how this guy who runs a business, he apparently, like, an employee of his got bit by a snake, and the bite was something from a rat snake, which I guess is a non-venomous snake. I don't know. I'm not very well read when it comes to snakes. And he's like, this guy, my employee, told me he wants to go to the hospital and not come to work today because he got bit by a snake. But that's a rat snake. It's not venomous.
Oh my god.
Like, motherfucker, what do you...
You don't own your employee, motherfucker. They can take a day off if they want.
Second, you should go seek medical care regardless of whether the animal that bit you is venomous or not. Fucking idiot. Or like the people who are like... Let me see. I'm looking at a bunch of the memes on this page right now. Because I joined this...
Oh, shit. I can't see it?
It's a private group. You have to... I'll do you...
You trolling fool.
I'll do you a solid, and I will link you to it. There you go. It's easy to get in. Hungry photographer deletes all photos and leaves after being denied food at the wedding. Let's see. What else?
Can we talk about first of all, look at the link you sent me. First of all, their group is in all caps. No one wants to work.
It's a parody.
Oh.
Page. It's not
it's parody. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a cool page. It's making fun of, the no one wants to work crowd. You feel me?
You know what? They should. So there's a guy on here has a shirt unmasked that says unmasked, unmuzzled, unvaccinated, unafraid, uneducated. They should have a shirt too that says uncircumcised.
What? The fuck does that have to do with anything?
I can just imagine anti-vaxxer dudes and gun nuts saying, "Man, I'm not getting circumcised. That's from the liberal government, man." I could just see that. I'm sorry. I could see
like here's another like post. It's a tweet. It looks like a tweet by a guy named Dan Price, and he's got the blue check mark. I've seen his tweets before. He's a pretty progressive dude. And he says here, if you post an entry-level job, you can't require any experience. If you require experience, you need to pay more than entry-level pay. I don't know when we got away from this, but you can't require 10 years of experience for $35K and complain no one wants to work. I'm like, yeah, when I got out of, and this is still the case, but when I graduated back in 2020, 99% of the fucking jobs that I was applying to, and I had applied to over 100 jobs before I found something, not even in my field, that required something like as low as an associate's, and I have a bachelor's, by the way, were like entry-level positions and they all wanted between 3 to 5 years of experience. Like, motherfucker, do you know what you're fucking asking for? And you know what you're doing.
Did they want you just to be fucking an unpaid intern or whatever to get that experience? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Like, practically speaking, yeah, but who's going to be an unpaid intern for 3 fucking years?
Well, dude, this is indentured servitude, 21st century style. Yeah. You look at student loans, too, it's debt peonage or peonage. However you say that word, it's debt that.
Yeah, no shit. Like...
And that's the thing, too. I thought about this a lot, actually, because I'm from a poor family, right? And the only thing my mom and dad got me when I was 18 was credit card bills and loans, right? You know the Temptation song, all he left us was a loan? Well, that was me, motherfucker. Anyway, for someone like me to change my social class and go to college, I have to pay, what is it, $300 a month when the student loan payments are on? And the way it's set up, you literally have to pay that for 40 years. The way it's set up. So that's literally your whole life. So it's a tax on the freaking person who wants to change your social class in the United States of America.
It's like, oh, you want to advance your socioeconomic status? Well, enjoy some debt slavery, baby.
How do you say that word? Peonage? Peonage?
Peonage.
I'm gonna look that up.
Oh, here's a
So I
good
don't
one.
sound like an uneducated fool.
This one is taken from some local business that is hiring. And it's a picture of a note with some rules. Now hiring. My rules. 1. Must be able to leave the phone for hours. 2. No awesome. No problem. What? What?
So wait a minute, is that a real post, or so
Yeah.
are these people trolling, or
No,
are
it's
they?
a real one. It's a note on some. It looks like a little cafe. No,
Oh, wait a minute, I'm confused, dude. Hold on. This group was founded to be a troll group, but they got people who actually don't think it's a troll group.
no. It's stuff that they have found out in the wild that they are sharing with the rest of the group.
Okay.
Number 3, bad attitude. Fixed first before you come. Number 4, take a
Sorry, I totally did a double meaning on that.
I know. Take a deep breath. It is just a bad day, not a bad life. ... By the way, like the grammar and the punctuation and spelling is all fucked up on here. It's like, okay, like you want me to work for you, but you have like an 8th grade grasp of the English language. Fuck off. 5. If you're leaving me when I struggle, do not expect to be back when I success. This can't be fucking legit.
Can't be real, dude. We're being trolled like a mother, man. We can't. We're crazy, man.
But the thing is, it's so believable, though. Like, it's so fucking believable. Like, all these motherfuckers who say, you know, all these jobs that need filled. I'm like, okay, they don't seem to be for people like me. Seems like, I don't even, actually, for a lot of these jobs, I don't think I could get them because they might consider me overqualified. Like, how likely are you to get a job at McDonald's if you have a fucking bachelor's degree? Like, you might actually be rejected because you are overqualified in the eyes of the employer.
Oh yeah,
Holy shit. I'm looking for another one before we start. We are going to talk about part 3 of the history of Mexico and Texas. I've had a long day, folks. I'm still mad about my earbuds. A lot of this... Someone posted a tweet from a job application. It's an online question that they are asked to fill. This is definitely the most bizarre question I have ever seen on a job application. The question reads, you've been given an elephant. You can't give it away or sell it. What would you do with the elephant?
What the fuck?
And there is a subreddit you might enjoy called r/recruiting hell. Recruiting hell. Let me pull that up.
All right.
So r/recruiting hell will pay you in experience. And it's a bunch of pictures and threads all about, you know, horrible, like, job hunting experiences. And when I was still looking for the job, before the job I have now anyway, like, I came here to cope a lot. The most invasive questioning I've received, it's a picture of an application, Texas workforce, some company in Texas. What is your race/ethnicity? Which group best describes your gender? Do you identify as transgender?
How's that your business?
What is your sexual orientation? Oh, wow. A
I
lot.
would write back. I want to screw your daughter. How about that?
No shit.
If your daughter's 18 and over, of course. Sorry. I gotta add that caveat in there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Too much sickos running around today. You know.
Yeah, and they also talk about on here quite a bit of basically how websites like LinkedIn just kiss the ass of CEOs, and they fuel.
Oh god.
They contribute to the whole like self-destructive grind mindset.
Well, yeah. Is there any other like useless set of people than CEOs on this fucking planet?
So this might
Maybe the grifters, but still.
Yeah, so this might interest you. So when I was doing my contract work, one of the folks I was working for, I worked with some retired engineers on a project, right? And me and him were talking, and he served at one point as like a regional manager for a manufacturing company, if I remember that correctly. And we both had like a talk about how, yeah, if all the workers leave, like that business falls apart within like a day or two.
Yeah.
If the CEO leaves, that company is going to run almost just fine for like anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Should have a workers' council. What's wrong with a workers' council?
Worker-run businesses, baby.
Have the best and brightest workers you got. Make them into a workers' council. Run the company for me. Thank you.
Turn that into a worker-owned cooperative, baby.
Let the wages be set by the workers.
So I'm gonna be right back, but when I come back, we're totally going to begin our continuation of the history between Nexus. No, I did it again. What the fuck?
Nexus.
I've had like 6 hours of sleep. I've had a long day. Mexico and it's gonna be a meme.
I'll tell you what. How about while you do that? How about you give me a topic to talk about and just ran on for the people?
All right.
Pick anything.
Worker-owned businesses, go.
Oh, come on, hold on, wait. Come on, something a little more sexy and provocative, you know?
The so-called necessity of CEOs.
Oh, okay, then.
Does that work?
Nah, it's something else.
Holy shit. How useless CEOs are or something.
Talk about something else.
Just read this fucking Reddit then. Read stuff off the recruiting help subreddit for all I care.
The muscular. I have problems with this.
I'm just gonna be away for like less than 30 seconds so I can use the damn bathroom.
Hurry on, what's up, mother?
Look, here's a link to it. Fucking just go read some shit off of that and react to it while I'm gone. Holy shit.
Hurry up, man. Come on.
I'll be back.
You goofy ass up. Anyway, what I was saying is I'm going to talk about something here. We need a soundboard. We need like a soundboard that we can get out to the public because like that guy I was talking about, R.M. Brown, like, man, that guy, he has this soundboard that's hilarious, right? He'll just, he'll be hearing these videos on these right-wingers and you'll just hear pop up in the background, the muscular class, the muscular class. I have a lot of problems with this. No. Oh, man, we need a soundboard. I think that would be great. And yeah, let me click on this Reddit real quick. Oh. See, I can't do it right. Here is a list of companies. Let's see here. What the hell? No, get out of here. Allow or block. Oh. All right, got a legal threat inside a coding assessment yesterday. What is this? Incomplete. Did something happen during this? I saw that the assessment closed, but it was incomplete. Why don't people use proper English on the internet? Did something happen in the assessment where you couldn't take it? All right, yada yada. Understood. Threw up several multiple choice formats, a major one. Around weird gotchas.
I'm back.
All right. Well, I was just telling the people how we need like a soundboard. Like I gotta show you R.M. Brown's soundboard, dude. It's freaking hilarious. He has one of Charlie Kirk saying the muscular class, the muscular class. It's hilarious.
I'm going to look up Charlie Kirk's soundboard. Let me see here.
No, you gotta look up R.M. Brown and R.M. Brown sound. The muscular class. The muscular class. He's just talking and he has those soundboards come on randomly.
Brown. Looks like there's a Giga Cringe. Let's see.
And by the way, that guy Kirk, he doesn't know what he believes. Like he'll just randomly do a left. He'll just randomly have a left wing belief, a left wing talking point with a right wing talking point. Like what? Like he'll talk about the power of corporations one moment and how that's bad for them to have so much power, and then he'll talk about, well, businesses are good for the country. Corporations are good. It's like what? What the fuck are you talking? But yeah, I would like a soundboard. I think the people would love that.
Bazinga. Let me see if I can find a quick sound clip of Bazinga to annoy the audience.
I want something like something like
Bazinga.
a rap lyric or something.
Bazinga.
There we go.
Bazinga. Bazinga.
Yeah, Bazinga.
I can't hear anything.
Oh yeah, it's because I'm just playing a YouTube video. It's like 1 second long. It's literally just Bazinga. Okay. Goofing around aside.
Let's get to our main
Bazinga.
topic.
Yes.
Bazinga.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for our main course today, the main event has finally come. Yes, and we're going to talk not about Nexus. I think Cornbread was talking about the WWE faction back in like 2013 or something. Anyway, we're not going to talk about Nexus or Mexican. We're going to talk today about the Mexican Texas. All right, so what do we mean by Mexican Texas? What are you talking about? Are you saying that we're part of Mexico? Oh, I'm going to shoot you. Well, shut up, Texas guy. Stereotypical Texas guy. Anyway.
Have you had a random Texan like get outraged over that fact and they threatened to shoot you like that?
Probably. I mean, geez.
We ain't no part of Mexus.
We ain't part of no Mexico. Insert racial slur here by that guy, and that I'm not going to say. So, before we can talk about the Texas Revolution, we kind of hinted on it, I think, 2 episodes ago. We're going to talk about Mexican Texas. And we're going to talk about immigration, the role that immigration played with Mexican Texas. So, the last 2 episodes, we talked a lot about the instability of Mexico at this time period in respect to its government. And we're talking about when Mexico officially became independent from Spain in 1821. Although Spain was salty Spain, right?
Salty Spain.
Salty Spain didn't want to give up that independence. So it's like Mexico wasn't really independent. But Mexico declared their independence and won a war against Spain in 1821. But Spain was still salty. And so Mexico had a lot of territory. And then we talked a little bit about the history and also Santa Anna for us gringos.
Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna.
Yeah. So Texas was a region in the Mexican Empire. And the land that we know as Texas today, right, was a part of Mexico. Yeah. And so, are you ready to begin?
Let me pull up your thing here really quick. Yes.
My notes that I took with my insight.
The
And we're going to get deep today, y'all. We're going to get deep as the abyss.
Now show me which page I should start on of your notes.
Well, let's start on 1.
All right, we're going to page 1.
Yeah, man. And so, starting out here, well, first of all, a little note about our sources. For the purpose of Mexican Texas, we did our research on the Wikipedia article, Mexican Texas. Unfortunately, they cited their sources, fortunately, about that, but a lot of the sources were books. So it's not like we can go back and, like, in the book and verify, because we don't have those books in front of us.
We can at least assess the credibility of the books they're citing, though, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. But we can't really know if, like, somebody just posted that as a source, but there's nothing related to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Like a thing you can do, and this is also for the sake of the audience, is that if for whatever reason you are using Wikipedia to look up some information, especially regarding a historical topic, and it cites a book as a source, in some cases you should be able to find a PDF of that book. And in some cases, you might actually be able, especially if it's like from an open source website or whatever, you should be able to actually find where it actually says that in the book it is citing. Because I have done that before, and I've used that to find some great sources on all kinds of topics.
Well, they do give a page number if you look at the citation part. Yeah, they do give page number in the references section on the Wikipedia article. Mm-hmm. But we just I don't know where to get access to that book. So.
Yeah, so we're not just taking Wikipedia's word for
it. No. So what I did when I composed these notes here is I read that Mexican Texas, and I only pulled out the very important info, and I gave some insight too. So we're not just reading Wikipedia; we're providing some context and background. And next week, what do you want to do? The Texas Revolution next week?
Yes, I think that would be a good thing we could
conclude
on. And while we talk about the history of Mexican Texas, I think we can also use that to bridge, kind of like the narrative or the timeline between, the Texan Revolution and how Santa Anna plays such a key role in that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that way we're not necessarily covering the entire life story of Santa Anna because there's so much. But for brevity's sake, when we do get back to Santa Anna, we're going to fast forward quite a bit to where he starts playing a more critical role in the history of Texas and Mexico.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my dog just farted. Serious. Oh, buddy. Oh, God.
Forgot you had that dog with you.
Oh, serious. You okay, bud? Sound like you got a raccoon stuck in your ass. Oh. All right. So the first thing that we have to know, though, is that the Texas, when it was part of the Mexican Empire, was so sparsely populated that it was combined with. Oh boy, that's you. Go ahead. What is that?
On page 1 of your notes?
Yeah, it's at the top. Third sentence down.
Oh yeah, Coahuila.
So Texas was so sparsely populated, right, that there was this problem. The problem was, how are we going to get people to populate this area? And so, let's begin. So, this is a cool passage from that Wikipedia, the 13 citation, says 13, that shows us the individualism that was in the populace of Texas from the very start. Mm-hmm. So, the new Mexican government was bankrupt and had little money to devote to the military. And so, settlers were empowered, people who settled in Texas and who were encouraged to settle and migrate to Texas. They were empowered to create their own militias and to help control hostile Native American tribes. And Texas faced rage from the Apache and Comanche tribes. And with very little military support, the few settlers in the region needed help. In the hopes that an influx of settlers could control the Indian raids, the government liberalized its immigration policies for the region for the first time. And settlers from the United States were permitted in the colonies for the first time. So right there, man, we're seeing that this Texas place, is a rugged, rough place. This the wild, wild Southwest, man, up in here.
There is a definite lack of a strong central authority governing Texas at this time. Or at least at the time, what was called the state of Coahuila y Tejas.
Yeah, and can you imagine how bad it had to be for the Mexican government to say, yeah, man, y'all from the United States, just come in and migrate, man. Just get rid of these Native Americans.
Hell, keep your guns, too. We're cool with that.
Yeah. Make your own militias.
Just practice Catholicism or some shit.
It's painfully ironic when you consider that the people who are against Mexican immigration at this time period, it's painfully ironic when you consider the people that are against Mexican migrants coming into the United States. If they were back in this time period, they would probably be going to Mexico, which would be Mexican Texas at that time.
Yeah.
So isn't that ironic? That's crazy.
Imagine being the descendant of immigrants while also hating immigrants coming into your country.
Woo, that's deep. Imagine being the descendants of immigrants to Texas, Mexican Texas, and then you hate immigrants coming into back. Woo, God, this is crazy, man. Woo. Man, let me put my nose up my shirt. Jeez.
While you struggle to breathe between dog farts,
I love this guy.
I will happily continue while you gasp for breath. The colonization law of August 1824 was a Mexican law allowing foreigners to immigrate to the country. The law allowed all heads of household who were citizens of or immigrants to Mexico to be eligible to claim land. The law did not differentiate among races or social stature, and people who had been granted occupancy rights would be able to claim the land patent for the dwellings. Unlike its predecessor, the Mexican law required immigrants to practice Catholicism and stressed that foreigners needed to learn Spanish.
This is ironic.
Wow, it's as if, I've heard this before somewhere.
Oh my God.
Settlers were supposed to own property or have a craft or useful profession, and all people wishing to live in Texas were expected to report to the nearest Mexican authority for permission to settle. The rules were widely disregarded, and many families became squatters. After this law, foreign speculators, as you have bolded and underlined, inundated the regional Mexican governments with settlement contracts. What was their intention? To bring colonists into Mexico. But for what purpose?
Yeah, and those are my own notes too. The questions.
So we have the situation, we've got the context, and we have the time frame. So this is around 1824 that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, the colonization law of 1824. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this is going on from there. And in the beginning, or in 1825, about 3,500 people lived in Texas, mostly congregated in San Antonio and La Bahia. I wonder how people in Texas pronounce La Bahia.
Labia.
Well, we call it labia.
Labia. Wait a minute, that's not a sexual joke, is it?
Maybe.
Because they don't like labias over there.
Clearly not.
Well, then again, we're not against Texans. We're against the people who in the government who passed those laws, who voted yes. Yay.
Yeah. So, it seems you also have a very important figure highlighted here.
This gringo.
This fellow, Stephen F. Austin.
And he's not the good Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
What?
The father of Texas plays a big role. Why does he get to be the father of Texas when it's already a fucking state in Mexico? It's Coahuila in Texas.
I know, but yeah, they consider him the father of Texas.
Fuck that. So, Stephen Austin, quote, the father of Texas, unquote, plays a big role in getting Anglo-Americans, white people, into Texas using this new law. He was an impresario. Look that up and see what it means in English.
Do it. I specifically want you to look this up.
All right, audience. Another interactive moment here.
Look that up, people. Impresario. What do you see? Give him 10 seconds.
All right.
Just put it into Google. If you put it into Google, from Spanish to English, look what it translates.
So, the definition of an impresario was a person who had been granted the right to settle on the land in exchange for recruiting and taking responsibility for settling the eastern areas of Guajira y Tejas.
Oh,
The word
you
in
did it wrong.
The word in here we go though. The word in Spanish for entrepreneur is emprendedor.
That's Google, y'all. If we're wrong about that, sorry.
Wait, let me see here. Oh my god. Emprendedor from empresa, company. So
Yeah, businessman,
an entrepreneur.
corporate. My gosh, man.
So this is around the time this law is passed, when our old friend Emperor Augustin de Iturbide is still Emperor of Mexico. Is that right?
Oh, Stephen, 1825.
Let me see here, just to be totally sure. So come on, where are you? Because Augustine became emperor in 1822. Let me see. And oh no, this would have been after. Yeah, this would have been after he was crowned emperor and then overthrown.
Well, dude, one
Because-
thing I learned from the podcast last week is that Mexico's government at this time, at least at the top level, was like a runway show. You got one leader coming in, doing their little strut on the catwalk, and then and you got another leader coming soon after them. I'm like, gosh dang, man, this is like a Mary Jane type of girl. You know what I'm saying?
Don't know if that analogy works, but
Don't know what I'm saying.
you get that sound.
Basically, leaders were coming in and out, right? They were in and out, in and out. It's like, whoa, pick a day, pick a leader. Boom, bam, pam. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, recall, our dear audience, from our previous episodes that Mexico at this time is experience a period of what is called caudillismo. And it's basically an era of like military strongman dominating the national political scene.
Yeah, like Santa Anna was president 11 times.
This man served 11 damn stints as president.
Jeez.
But yeah, so this is kind of the situation. So this law, as you have noted here, was passed in 1824. So this is the same year that Iturbide was eventually executed.
Oh, okay.
So kind of a period of discord, to say the least.
Yeah, the colonization law. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this company man, this Stephen F. Austin guy, he's granted the right to settle on the land. And he brings 300 families and their slaves from the United States to the region in 1825. This businessman was, as you say, Martin, a slave-owning piece of shit with white supremacist beliefs.
That's my editorial. That's not Wikipedia.
I'm sure most scholars would probably agree with you. These businessmen are just concerned with getting free land from Texas and having slaves work it for them. These are all Martin's notes, by the way. I'm not, like, adding anything to this. It's fucking disgusting.
I write that, yeah.
Yeah, don't let the audience come to that conclusion themselves. Imagine, like, this historian writing about it and, like, a college level textbook, and he's like, yeah, this is fucking disgusting.
Somebody's biased. Well, at least I'm out front with my bias. I mean, geez, like the example we used earlier. Imagine a textbook saying that the transatlantic slave trade, which brought indigenous kidnapped West Africans from West Africa to the Americas. Imagine a textbook saying it's a migration. At least I'm out front with my bias.
The later U.S. version of Texas, again, this is Martin's notes, not mine, was founded on speculation and slavery, which we're going to get to here in a bit. I don't know if I should read this last sentence you wrote. Okay, audience, here we go. How so fitting that it is a right-wing shithole.
Some places.
Oh, okay. We got through that.
My editorial, it's not Wikipedia.
I really like your the narrative you're spinning here. We're gonna get to like the Wikipedia stuff here in a moment, I promise. But when Austin was Arkansas wheeling and dealing with property, his father
Living in Arkansas, yeah.
His father, Moses Austin, traveled to Spanish Texas and received an empresarial grant that allowed him to bring 300 American families to Texas. Moses soon died from pneumonia, and he leaves Stephen the empresarial grant. So now Austin inherits a potential fortune.
Woo! How American is that?
And it's fucking disgusting. So, since we're following the narrative of, Stephen Austin, we're going to keep kind of following through. I really actually like this better than the Wikipedia version. I mean, it's very to the point. It pulls no punches. And it's true to the history. So it's actually pretty reliable, I think. Throughout the rest of the decade, Austin starts befriending political leaders, making deals, etc. He is wheeling and dealing.
Wheeling, dealing. Machine.
And you quote a very interesting, let's see here. It is a passage from a 1829 letter from Stephen Austin to his sister describing the future second president of Mexico, Vicente Guerrero's government of Mexico and Texas. This is the most liberal and munificent government on earth to immigrants. After being here 1 year, you will oppose a change even to Uncle Sam.
Man,
Wait.
be careful who you welcome in.
Wait, is he complaining about this? Like, oh, they're letting all the fucking immigrants in. Well, this fucking asshole moves in. Wow.
So, hold on. This is kind of like what the right-wingers today, especially anti-immigrant nativist people, fear about Mexican immigrants, that, hey, America is such a liberal and munificent government to immigration. Let's come in and just take it over. Nobody's thinking that. But this guy, Stephen F. Austin, was thinking at least that the Mexican government was liberal and munificent to immigrants.
No shit. Lord.
And you can tell going forward, the Wikipedia stuff, I put quotation marks around. So you can tell.
Right. So also keep in mind, while this is happening, Mexico by this point is a federal republic. It's no longer the first empire of Mexico. It is the, let me pull it up here. It falls under a period called the First Mexican Republic, which is later followed by the Centralist Republic of Mexico. But for now, this is where we are around the 1820s, you would say? 1820s.
Oh, yeah, mid to late 1820s.
Yeah. So this is where we are now. So, continuing with Martin's notes here, there were several push factors that caused Anglo-Americans to immigrate to Texas at this time. The United States was still struggling with the aftermath.
Well, hold on, pause there.
Oh.
So that sentence, there were several push factors that caused Anglo-Americans to immigrate to Texas at this time. Push factor. So this is something that has to do with immigration.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about a push factor, think about you pushed a door open, right? You don't pull that mother, you push push it open. So when we talk about push factors and immigration, we're talking about the factors that cause people to leave their country. A push factor, for example, could be war. I leave my country and go to another country because there's a war in my country. It pushes me out of my country. Or famine. Famine pushed me out of my country, so I went to another country. That's called a push factor. So that's what.
And another one, too, tying it in with the current events that we just read, climate change can be a push factor.
Push factor, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the push factors that you describe here is the aftermath of the Panic of 1819, where, can you describe the Panic of 1819 for us?
Oh, yeah. So the United States was still struggling with the aftermath of the Panic of 1819, and soaring land prices within the United States made the Mexican land policy seem generous. So when we talk about the Panic of 1819, we're talking about a sort of, I guess, mini recession. Not the Great Depression or a depression, but a recession. And those recession causes people to want to leave because they're going through hard economic times. That's a weird thing about a depression and recession. I don't know how to say that in academic language.
I guess the simplest way we could probably put it is that the Panic of 1819, or at least the aftermath that you're describing, which also seems to be the push factor here, was the general collapse of the American economy that continues all the way to 1821. So does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's like a recession, right? Where unemployment, banks fail, foreclosures on that kind of stuff. And also in the Panic of 1819, investment in real estate in the Western United States, which was still the Wild Wild West at the time. So that kind of investment fizzled out. And so people are left penniless and hungry.
Okay. So there seems to be a very big economic push factor going on here.
Yes. It gives people an incentive to leave, to be pushed out of their country.
So moving on, another one that you list here. In 1827, Austin received a second grant allowing him to settle an additional 100 families along with the old San Antonio Road to Nacogdoches, near what is now Bastrop. So this is prompting so these generous policies by the Mexican government at this time are prompting some, I guess you could say, extra incentives, particularly to Austin.
Yeah, and it's free land.
Yeah, basically, it's like the fucking meme. It's like the free real estate meme.
I mean, this guy was giving a handout, fucking socialist.
God, why doesn't he just pull up his bootstraps and get his own land? The location was chosen at the behest of the Tejanos, who are the residents of Texas of Mexican descent.
Yeah.
Who hoped that colonists in the area could help defend against Comanche raids. Austin was later granted permission to resettle 800 other families in Texas. Damn.
This guy.
He's bringing in not just individuals, he's bringing in families.
Yeah.
My God. 23 other empresarios also brought immigrants to Texas. Of these, only one of the empresarios, Martin de Leon, settled citizens from within Mexico. The others came primarily from the United States. Many of the Anglo settlers owned slaves. All colonists were expected to become naturalized Mexican citizens, and they were also supposed to follow the state religion, Roman Catholicism. In Austin's colony, the local priest formally converted new arrivals, but then allowed them to worship as they pleased. So essentially, when they're coming in, they're kind of just checking off a box. They're not really... They're formally becoming Catholic, but not really. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I'm Catholic, okay.
This is pretty much still a time, too, when Catholicism and Protestantism, at least from the Anglo-American point of view, have racial associations too. Like, typically at this time, people associated Roman Catholicism with, people they considered non-white.
Okay.
Whereas Protestantism is still kind of seen as a, like, white man's religion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the situation, what's going on here. These are some of the push factors that are pushing Anglo-Americans to immigrate in Texas and some of the other events going on. So, moving on with your notes here. We see here that Austin is sort of a Karen.
These are my notes, by the way.
So,
My insight.
So, and Martin clarifies this as Charon in Greek mythology, the figure who ferries the souls of the dead over the river Styx, and that Austin is having a lot of Anglo-Americans settle in Texas. And they have slaves.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, what kind of economy they're building here. It's a slave economy.
Yeah.
Austin was granted the rank of lieutenant colonel of the militia, and he was given absolute authority over all justice, excluding the sentencing for capital crimes. To maintain order within his colony, he issued the first Anglo-American law code in Texas. So again, Martin's words, so he is sort of a dictator in the places he carved for himself in the Mexican state of Coahuila and Tejas, because under the terms of the colonization contracts, the impresarios were responsible for providing security in their lands. In 1823, Austin created a company of men who would patrol his colony and protect the colonists from native attacks and to defuse internal issues. The initial company, known as Ranger Company, comprised 10 volunteers who served terms of 3 to 6 months and were paid in land. The men were not uniformed and were not subject to military law or regulation. They were the precursors to the Texas Rangers. After the Karankawa, I think I pronounced that right. Karankawa. Yeah, Karankawa. After the Karankawa repeatedly attacked the settlers, Austin organized a militia to fight back. They almost annihilated the tribe. Sounds a little genocidal.
Well, can we talk about, too, like, even the Mexican government at this time are being a bunch of punks to the Native Americans?
Mexico,
why do you think you're being attacked? Get out of their land.
Yeah, Mexico is not exactly friends with the Apache and Comanche peoples here.
Yeah, it's like they're taking their land.
Mind you, Mexico previously was a colonial enterprise. It was part of a colonial empire. And then when it gained independence, it became its own empire.
Yeah.
And now it's a federal republic at this point.
Why, like, and then they say, oh, let the white man come in here and kill these Indians. Like, what the fuck? Gosh. Nowhere. No matter what country you're in, kill the Native American. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
During Austin's rise to power, more land speculators keep coming to Texas. Colonization laws limited Anglos to only 1 league of land, but Mexican nationals were in many cases eligible for up to 11 leagues.
Ooh.
Anglo speculators would often convince a Mexican national to claim his 11 leagues and then sell the land to the speculator through the power of an attorney. Where have we read this before? This
familiar pattern. Well, it's like remember our what the Puritans did to the Native American tribes around them?
Yeah, the Algonquin peoples.
No, the Puritans. This would be more the Narragansetts in the Massachusetts, I believe.
Yeah. I think those technically count as Algonquin. I could be wrong though.
But yeah, they swindled the Native Americans out of their land through stuff like this. Like, remember we talked about how sometimes sometimes the Puritans would bring alcohol to the land meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for the negotiating meetings for land, or sometimes they would create these laws, and they would hold the Native Americans to the same laws, and it's a law like, oh, what are you doing walking on the Sabbath?
Yeah. Whereas in this case, the power dynamic here is pretty different. Where you would expect the Mexican national to have the power here. But remember, this is at a time when things aren't going too great in Mexico.
Yeah.
It's still recently won its independence. It's dealing with these warlords rising up here and there in rebellion against the government. Things aren't particularly great if you're a Mexican national right now. So, especially if you're part of kind of like the lower classes too, and you're lucky to own some land, you might be incentivized to actually sell it to a land speculator.
Yeah. And this may seem like an elementary point too, but it's just something I thought in my head and I got verbal diarrhea. But anyway, I'm thinking too, like, these new settlers, if they're bringing slaves, well, then these new settlers would have the time to actually train to fight and actually attack Indians and actually have the time to conduct all these deals with these Mexican nationals because they're not working.
Yeah.
The slaves are working for them.
Yeah, you can practice to shoot all day long if you want, so long as you have slaves doing all the work for you. Oh, you cite an interesting example here, too. In 1825, Mexican authorities became concerned with the actions of Empresario Hayden Edwards in Nacogdoches.
That's such a white name, Hayden Edwards.
Hayden Edwards.
Sounds like a Mormon.
Edwards had threatened to confiscate the land of any Mexican already living in the area in which he planned to bring settlers unless the Mexicans could present written deeds to the property. This motherfucker. Holy shit.
It's like, can't believe it.
Know your history, folks. Mexican authorities promptly told him that he did not have the authority to confiscate land and he should honor the claims of the previous settlers. After multiple confrontations, on December 16, 1826, Edwards, his brothers, and 30 settlers issued a declaration of independence and called themselves the Republic of Fredonia.
Oh my God. Oh my
Fredonia, huh?
This just sounds like one of those fucking one of these right wingers today.
Wow, Fredonia. Other impresarios disassociated themselves from Edwards, and Austin sent 250 militiamen to Nacogdoches to help the Mexican forces quell the revolt. Edwards was finally forced to flee Mexican territory. Good. Fuck him. Fuck.
That was a good story, man. Because like this reminds me of like if this guy were here today, this Edwards dude, he would probably be storming the Capitol, right?
He would be a January 6th rioter.
Yeah.
He'd be like a Proud Boy or some shit.
Hey, Hayden Edwards, F you.
After hearing reports of other racial issues, the Mexican government asked General Manuel Mier y Terán to investigate the outcome of the 1825 colonization law in Texas. In 1829, Mier y Terán issued his report, which concluded that most Anglo-Americans refused to be naturalized and tried to isolate themselves from Mexicans. He also noted that slave reforms passed by the state were being ignored. And here's more of your notes here. So we see here a situation in which these Anglo-American immigrants are coming into this region of Mexico and completely shitting on the laws of the country they immigrated to. This is so painfully ironic. ... The painful irony of the Texas Revolution, again in the words of Martin, should be the title of this podcast.
Well, the Mexican Texas, I guess.
Should have.
And I say ironic, not because that's what the Mexican immigrants today are doing to this country, but that's what the nativist or anti-immigrant people think the Mexican immigrants are doing to this country.
Center,
and they're wrong.
Center for Immigration Studies.
Yeah, like the Center for it's connecting. That's why we devote so much time to those current events.
Although many Mexicans wanted to abolish slavery, fears of an economic crisis, if all the slaves were simultaneously freed, led to a gradual emancipation policy. In 1823, Mexico forbade the sale or purchase of slaves and required that the children of slaves be freed when they reached 14. Any slave introduced into Mexico by purchase or trade would also be freed. By 1825, however, a census of Austin's colony showed 1,300 Anglo-Americans and 443 people of African descent, including a very small number of free African Americans. 2 years later, the legislature of Coahuila y Texas outlawed the introduction of additional slaves into the state and granted freedom at birth to all children born to a slave. Damn, these laws are pretty lit. Like,
Yeah, but they're not being followed.
Yeah, by white people. By fucking white people. And I'm sure there's probably some Tejanos too who are like, there are some slave owners.
Well, there were Native Americans who owned slaves.
Yeah, it's more complicated than just, only white people.
White people bad, yeah.
Yeah. So, the new laws also stated that any slave brought into Texas should be freed within 6 months. These white people and their slaves. ...
That's my comment. And the reason I said that is because they can make all the laws. Mexico can make all the laws they want, but Austin and the other settlers, they got their own armies. It's just like what president said the Supreme Court can have their decisions or whatever, but they can't enforce it. Was that Jackson?
I think that was Andrew Jackson.
That son of a bitch.
Yeah, that asshole.
Oh man. Yeah, when it came to the Supreme Court granting in favor of the Cherokees, I believe that is a reference to.
Yeah. So, moving on here. Oh, lost my place. Okay, there we are. In 1829, and this isn't listed in your notes, but to also kind of keep you in the loop of the time frame in Mexico, 1829 was the year of the presidency of Vicente Guerrero, the second president of Mexico.
Black president and a Native American president. Mixed, yeah.
Technically, he'd be the first black president in all of North America.
Whoa, what about Toussaint Louverture? If I'm saying his name right.
Oh, you mean Haiti?
Haiti, yeah. Or was he a president? I'm not sure.
Let me see. Was that at the same time?
That was in 1804 when I believe 1804 when Haiti became independent.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Haitian independence was won in 1804 officially. Yeah. So
I don't know if he was considered quote unquote president.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We gotta do a Haiti episode one day. But this is during the presidency of Vicente Guerrero, who was personally my favorite president of Mexico ever. So, and during his tenure as president, he officially outlawed slavery in Mexico. Austin feared that the edict would cause widespread discontent and tried to suppress publication of it. Rumors of the new law quickly spread throughout the area, and the colonists seemed to be on the brink of revolt. So now, Austin is censoring the news of his own government.
My editorial.
And Martin's editorial here. The fucking balls and disrespect these Anglo-Americans have for the country they immigrated into. This is the fear of the right-wingers today, that Mexicans and immigrants in general will come to the USA and disrespect our laws, take it over, etc. Jeez.
Damn.
It's like, wow, we did that to them. What if they want to do it to us?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to self-censor here.
Sorry. I get passionate. This whole paragraph is my own rant.
Slavery apologists will say that slavery was these Anglo-Americans' income, and that if the government took slavery away, then it would take away the settlers' income. Bullshit! Exclamation mark, 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 exclamation mark. These fucking people were literally handed free land. They were given land. They did not pay for it. They were freely given land by the Mexican government to help build up the land and take care of it. These censoring slavers were just wanted as much as they can get to have more land, to have more slaves. These settlers could not just have had their own little plots of land and worked it and lived it an idyllic existence, but no, they were land hungry because they wanted slaves to work as much land as they could acquire. I hate these. I'm censoring that too.
Censoring. You censoring.
Oh, that's so fun to read.
That's a good point. I mean, that's a good point. You're given free land. Just live an idyllic existence. Work in your land. You got a good life.
So these fucking white people are coming in here and they're practicing slavery. Their livelihood is on slavery. They come to a new country to start a new life, and they decide the best way to do that is through fucking slavery in a place that eventually outlaws slavery. At least for the time being. And moving on with your notes, the Mexican government balks. The governor of Coahuila y Tejas, Jose Maria Viesca, wrote to the president to explain the importance of slavery to the Texas economy and the importance of the Texas economy to the development of the state. Texas was temporarily exempted from the rule.
Ooh. Oh boy.
And that is probably from the governor too. Oh, because this is from the governor who wrote this. The Mexican president has some balls.
Yeah, the next.
On April 6, 1830, Mexican President Anastasio Bustamante ordered Texas to comply with the Emancipation Proclamation or face military intervention. So for those of you who don't know who Anastasio Bustamante is, he is technically the fourth president of Mexico. The third president was, let me see here.
Guerrero.
No.
Vicente.
No, that was Nicolas. No, it wasn't Nicolas Bravo. Who the fuck was the third president of Mexico? It's not an easy, clear line.
I know, man. Woo, goodness gracious. I know. Like I said, man, Mexico, during this time period, the leaders were fashion runway models, man. Like,
it's not easy keeping track of terms, okay? So
it is not.
It's really hard. So the third president of Mexico was Jose Maria Bocanegra. And this guy was a lawyer and politician, and he was an interim president of Mexico because his predecessor was captured and executed in a coup attempt. The coup succeeded, and Bocanegra was pushed aside only after 5 days in office. So Anastasio Bustamante assumes power, and he is, and again, a reoccurring theme here, is another caudillo. He's a strongman. He's a Mexican military general, and he serves 3 terms as president of Mexico. He initially, he's a veteran of the Mexican War of Independence. He's initially a royalist. He's a supporter of the Plan of Iguala, which we discussed in previous episodes. And he participated in the coup that led to the disposition of the liberal presidency of Vicente Guerrero. Mind you, Anastasio Bustamante is a very conservative guy, too. The government he leads is a very conservative, strongman government. So this is how this particular asshole becomes president of Mexico.
He's not Italian.
He's not Italian. Anastasio Bustamante is not Italian.
Yeah.
So at this time, he is ordering Texas to comply with the proclamation or face military intervention. To circumvent the law, many Anglo colonists converted their slaves into indentured servants
For life.
for life.
Oh my god.
Others simply called their slaves indentured servants without legally changing their status.
Oh my god.
Slaveholders wishing to enter Mexico would force their slaves to sign contracts claiming the slaves owed money and would work to pay the debt. So they're lying to the fucking government, too, at this point.
God.
They're doing
lying.
anything. They're doing everything they fucking can to keep their fucking slaves.
I thought we were supposed to have respect, man.
The low wages the slave would receive made repayment impossible, and the debt would be inherited even though no slave would receive wages until age 18. This tactic was outlawed by an 1832 state law, which prohibited worker contracts from lasting more than 10 years. A small number of slaves were imported illegally from the West Indies or Africa. The British consul estimated that in the 1830s, approximately 500 slaves had been illegally imported into Texas. By 1836, there were approximately 5,000 slaves in Texas.
Jeez.
So the slave population is fucking booming. So now, yeah, reading more of your
can't
notes
bel-
here. Whew,
I can't believe this, man.
I'm getting fired up. Holy shit. I don't even think we're going to be able to cover anything from Santa Ana tonight. Damn.
Nah, man, these are deep notes.
That's going to be like part 4.
We're deep diving, yo.
We're setting the stage for the Texas Revolution.
No, yeah, the Mexican Texas, yeah.
So now the government is trying to de-incentivize Anglo-American immigration into Texas. They're literally saying these white people need to be stopped. For example, Bustamante rescinded the property tax law, which exempted immigrants from paying taxes for 10 years. He further increased tariffs on goods entering Mexico from the United States, causing their prices to rise. Oh boy. Finally, he prohibited further immigration to Texas from the United States, although Anglos would still be welcome in other parts of Mexico. The ban and other measures did not stop U.S. citizens from migrating illegally to Texas by the thousands.
Yeah. Oh
The fucking audacity.
Oh my god.
The fucking
We got illegal immigrants,
the
quote
fucking
unquote.
the fucking caucasity of these people.
History, y'all. This is wild.
Holy shit.
So can we say that the current white people in Texas right now are the result of illegal immigrants into Texas?
If you're
Into Mexico?
If you live in Texas and your family has, its roots going this far back in Texas history, guess what? You likely descend from an illegal immigrant
Yeah.
from the United States into Mexico. By 1834, it was estimated that over 30,000 Anglos lived in Texas, compared to only 7,800 Mexicans. We now, this is your words, we now have illegal immigrants. This is bizarro world from what we live in today. I am speechless. Today, hardworking Mexicans and other peoples from Central and South America fleeing hardship and looking for work are trying to immigrate into the USA through Texas, and they are called illegals, quote unquote, as if a person can be illegal. It makes me angry. I am thinking, for example, of the political ad from Georgia Governor Brian Kemp in the 2018 election for governor of Georgia. ...
Ooh.
Strong words. Very good, well-chosen words. Anglos often viewed the Mexicans as foreigners and intruders. Fucking excuse you. Excuse you, white man.
This is nuts.
Holy shit, the fucking entitlement.
Oh my god.
What a bunch of fucking Karens.
Yeah.
It's like me moving to like Mexico City and just being like, you don't belong here. You don't belong here. I'm in a gas station in Mexico City and I'm just like glaring at everyone around me, just going, you don't belong here. Why don't you speak English? That's what this fucking comes off like.
Yeah. I mean, this makes you speechless when you think about today.
Yeah. History has a sense of fucking irony.
I mean, yeah. It's like you put a mirror from here till now.
Oh, yeah. The feeling was often returned. Rafael Antonio Manchola, son-in-law of impresario Martin de Leon, served as the commander of the Presidio at La Bahia from 1828 to 1830, and then as the alcalde of Goliad. Or Joliad? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Joliad? Joliad, I think. He warned the military commander of Texas that, here's a long quote. We're going to get through this quote. No faith can be placed in the Anglo-American colonists because they are continually demonstrating that they absolutely refuse to be subordinate unless they find it convenient to what they want anyway. All of which I believe will be very detrimental to us for them to be our neighbors if we do not in time clip the wings of their audacity by stationing a strong detachment in each new settlement which will enforce the laws and jurisdiction of a Mexican magistrate, which should be placed in each of them, since, under their own colonists as judges, they do nothing more than practice their own laws, which they have practiced since they were born, forgetting the ones they have sworn to obey, these being the laws of our supreme government. And that's a primary source, folks. It's a primary source. And here is your quote. Does this remind you of the idiots who oppose the vaccines? The attitude of the Anglo-Americans in Texas is astounding to me. We see this attitude among the far right, I'm censoring that, even today. Now, the big witch nose of the U.S. gets involved. The what?
The U.S. gets their big witch nose involved.
Okay.
So now we're seeing the U.S. get involved in this conflict.
Uncle Sam's big fucking schnoz gets involved for several reasons. Many politicians, for example, see Texas as a state in the United States that could balance the free and slave states. Because remember, folks, this is all happening at a time in the United States where there is a struggle for power between free states and slave states.
Yep.
In 1827, American President John Quincy Adams offered $1 million for Texas. Mexican President Guadalupe Victoria refused. 2 years later, Andrew Jackson increased the United States offer to $5 million. President Vicente Guerrero again declined to sell. In U.S. history, when the U.S. wants something, there is no stopping them.
That's my note.
Unless it's Vietnam. They will kill, steal, and destroy anything or anyone in their path, especially on this side of the hemisphere. No lies detected. In addition to this, in 1829, the salty Spanish are leading efforts to reconquer Mexico. Salty España.
Salty España.
In July 1829, Mexican authorities had other concerns, as General Isidro Barradas landed 2,700 Spanish troops to the eastern coast of Mexico, but he ultimately surrendered. So, General Isidro Barradas, he's a Spanish general?
Yeah, he's from Spain.
Oh, okay, just making sure. Yep, he was a Spanish general sent to Mexico. So he lands 2,700 Spanish troops to the eastern coast of Mexico, but he ultimately surrendered. During the invasion, the Mexican Congress had granted war powers to President Guerrero, making him essentially a monarch. This alarmed the Anglo colonists in Texas, who are accustomed to a separation of powers. What separation of powers, one might ask? Meanwhile...
Oh, you asking me? Oh.
I guess I'm asking rhetorically. Especially consider the fact, too, that Vicente Guerrero is... He's mixed. He's coming from, like, native and black ancestry.
Yeah.
So imagine that you're some uppity white-ass Anglo living in Texas. Your president, as far as you're concerned, is black.
Whoa, I didn't see that, but yeah, that's a good point.
I just thought of that. I'm like, holy shit, that must have made these people fucking
Well, not only black, but he's also native too, Native American.
And he's the one who is got war powers, baby.
Well, and he's the one too saying, hey, not only that, but he's the one too saying, hey, slavery's outlawed. Because remember, this is 1829, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that. But yeah, he was like the Barack Obama to the right wingers today.
I think this dude, hot take, I think Vicente Guerrero was cooler than Barack Obama. Way, by far.
Yeah, Obama's very much of a centrist.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Mexican government was in turmoil. In 1832, it's our boy, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, led an insurrection against Mexican President Anastasio Bustamante. I don't like Bustamante, but I like the way that man's name sounds. Anastasio Bustamante.
Sounds like a mafia dude.
Yeah. Although most of the Mexican army supported the Bustamante administration, this led to a small civil war. Many of the Anglo settlers sided with Santa Anna and followed General Jose Antonio Mejia to lead soldiers in Texas against Bustamante. What those Anglo settlers wanted was a new government that would encourage more immigration from the United States and let them keep their slaves.
Yeah, and what you see here too is that they have power, these Anglo settlers. They have so much power that they're leading credence to Santa Anna.
Mm-hmm.
And they got their own agenda. They want that government. They want more immigrants and more slaves.
So at this point, and I think in the next episode, we're probably going to focus more directly on Santa Anna. But Santa Anna was elected president of Mexico on January 19, 1833. A convention was called in the same year. This one attended by recent arrivals such as Sam Houston, appointed a commission to draft a constitution for a new Mexican state of Texas, and selected delegates to represent Texas before the federal government. And for any of you who know anything about Mexican and Texas history, Santa Anna and Sam Houston are basically like major figures in the future Texas Revolution.
Mm.
Austin was chosen to deliver the proposed... Austin was chosen to deliver the proposed constitution to Santa Anna's government in Mexico City. Although Austin pointed out that Texas had been given permission to form a separate state and now had grown to 46,500 inhabitants, the political chief of Bihar warned the government that the Anglos might be proposing separate statehood as part of a plan to join with the United States. Boy, they weren't fucking wrong either. Austin was arrested on November 21st, 1833, on suspicion of treason. Austin was imprisoned for about a year. Santa Anna decided to do away with the Mexican Constitution of 1824 and become a monarch. At this point, Austin switched from promoting peace to supporting separation from Mexico. Houston is another one of these people who was given land by the Mexican government. He went to Texas in 1832. Santa Anna has become dictator in the meantime. This Mexican government is unstable, to say the least.
These are my notes, by the way.
These are all Martin's notes. I have not read anything from Wikipedia. I've been reading from Martin's notes.
Starting from Houston.
Yeah.
The ones with the citations are from Wikipedia.
We started on page 1. I'm on page 5 of these notes, baby. there are two main forces that are fighting within the Mexican government. Those who want a more strong federal government and those who want to liberalize more of the power of the federal government. Kind of loosen it up a bit, distribute that power a little bit more. You know what I mean? They are in no position whatsoever to stop these immigrants. It is reminiscent to me, Martin, of the end of the Roman Empire. These relatively small civil wars keep popping up, further weakening the Mexican government's power to handle these growing numbers of immigrants.
Damn immigrants.
Damn immigrants. The pressure exerted on the Mexican government was increasing. The Mexican government attempts to address some of the Texans' concerns. Article 11, which I'm assuming is part of the Constitution, was repealed on November 21st, 1833, allowing American immigrants to again flow into Texas. God, it's an invasion.
Yeah.
You remember when fucking Fox News...
It's a white invasion.
You fucking remember when Fox News...
Build the wall.
Yeah, was going on about, oh, it's an invasion of people from, Central America.
You think these people, too, these Anglo settlers, are raping and pillaging and committing crimes?
we know they're fucking committing slavery.
Yeah. Build the wall. Build the wall, everybody. Stop these Anglo settlers from coming into Texas.
We prefer the term expats, not immigrants. 5 months later, Coahuila y Tejas separated Texas into 3 departments: San Antonio Bejar, Brazos, and Nacogdoches, with political chiefs for each department and more representation in the state legislature. Furthermore, trial by jury was introduced and English was authorized as a second language. The Mexican government, Martin's notes, is bending over backwards and it's still not enough for these Anglo-American immigrants. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile.
That's right.
Oh, hell. So, we are past the 2-hour mark. We are 16 minutes after the 2-hour mark.
It's a good place to stop too in the notes because now it's the Texas Revolution.
Yeah, and then we'll finally be able to kind of tie all these things together in the next episode. But we have definitely covered a lot, I think, in this episode from the Texan side of things historically.
Yeah, Mexican Texas.
Yeah, so we're kind of rehashing some of the things that we discussed in previous episodes, which I think is great because that kind of gives us more to review, kind of helps us crystallize that knowledge of what's going on at this time period, who's doing what factors are causing these events, etc.
Yeah. And I hope the people out there enjoyed my notes as much as you did.
I did. At one point, I was actually fucking crying because I just couldn't stop fucking laughing. Especially when I have to censor your shit. I'm like, oh God, I want to say it, but I can't say it.
We're going to try to get more clean, I guess.
We have to make a sacrifice somewhere. We can still make dick jokes, though. That's fine.
And I'm going to be making a lot more cautions or warnings or public service announcements. Some of the things said on this may be exaggerated for parody. We do not literally mean some of these things.
Do not literally go and kill anybody. Ministry Modus does not support the killing of people.
No.
But yeah, I guess a little recap here. So, Mexico and Texas at this time, Mexico is still unstable as fuck. They are going through presidents like candy. Mexico is also dealing with military incursions from Spain because Spain does not really fully recognize Mexico's independence yet.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the state of Coahuila y Tejas, which later becomes the state of Texas as we know it today, is pretty sparsely populated. And the government at this time is trying to get people to come in and settle these lands. So they start creating incentive for American immigrants to show up and settle. And as we have seen, these Anglo-American immigrants fucking abuse that in every single way possible. They circumvent Mexico's laws, which eventually forbid slavery. Slavery becomes a major factor, as we'll continue to learn in the future episodes as well, which leads to the Texan Revolution. And we see a boom in the Anglo-American population in Coahuila y Tejas, but we also see a boom of the slave population too, because the Americans are illegally bringing slaves in.
They're illegally entering. At one point, I mean, at first the Mexican government is encouraging it until they become like their own little law-breaking band of citizens.
Yeah, like these empresarios, as they're called, these entrepreneurs, are
Job creators.
They hold a lot of fucking individual power. They're able to form militias. They have money. And because they have both of these things, in addition to land, and the fact that they're also making money speculating from land too, gives them enormous advantages over the Mexican authorities. And they're able to ignore Mexican laws in favor of laws that favor them. And as we see here near the end of the notes that I kind of just read, especially kind of around like 1830s, we start to see the evolution of the state of Texas, where, immigrants are free, like from the United States, are flowing freely into Texas at this point. There's no stopping.
With their slaves.
With their fucking slaves. And eventually the state is separated into 3 separate departments with their own political chiefs and more representation in the state legislature. In addition to that, they're authorizing English as a second language. So we're starting to see an Angloization, I guess you could say. I guess that would be the word.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mexico is struggling to kind of keep itself together with all these, with Cadillismo basically plaguing the whole fucking country.
Well, and also Mexico's bending over backwards to make sure that these Anglo settlers do not break away and start their own republic of Texas.
Yeah,
so they're letting English be the second language. They're letting slavery happen.
Mm-hmm. So I think that recaps everything pretty nicely at this point. So,
yeah,
you got any closing thoughts before we head out?
I do. And, my closing thoughts, I want to give a shout out to all of our Mexican brothers and sisters out there, because this kind of history, right? I can't imagine how it hurts for them. Think about that. Especially all the our Mexican American brothers and sisters out there, because we can sit back and say, man, this is painfully ironic, but can you imagine somebody whose ancestors were affected by this? Like, you're the people that came into what was my country, and now you and people like you call me an illegal immigrant. Ooh. History hurts people sometimes. History is hurtful sometimes. When you learn about history, history hurts.
Like, how could it not make your fucking blood boil knowing this history? Especially as we have read before, that many of these Anglo immigrants from the US, when they have moved into Mexico, felt that the Mexican people there did not belong. Like, they are the foreigners. They are the ones who don't belong in this space. But these fucking white people do.
Whew. I mean, what's a good thing to say about this? The Mexicans So we didn't land in the United States. The United States landed on us, right? Is that good to say? I mean,
It's more
I felt like
more like we didn't cross the border crossed us kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you want to go even deeper to the Mexican-American War, which is about 20 years, 15, 20 years after what we're talking about, if you want to go deeper than that, what about all the Mexican citizens that were living in the areas that are now, that are then, before the war, known to be Mexican territory? What about them, those Mexican people? Are they American citizens now, too? Ooh, I tell you, our brown brothers and sisters out there, man, woo! Man, this is their getting screwed on by the man, I guess.
No shit.
So yeah, that's my closing thoughts.
You
Oh,
have,
boy.
once again, excellent closing thoughts. So, I say to you, dear listener, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode as we basically learn more about how fucked the world is. But that said, we hope you tune in again next week as we continue into part 4 of the history of Texas and Mexico. See,
Yeah.
I managed to say it without saying Mexis. So, feel free to follow us on Twitter at Ministry Modus, or shoot us an email. Send us a death threat. Tell us how much you love us to our email, which is all one word, martinandcornbread@gmail.com. But make sure, more importantly, to follow us on Twitter for more content, updates, and spicy takes.
Absolutely.
I've been improving the Twitter game, by the way.
Oh, I've seen. It's quite humorous.
Not only that, it's getting attention, baby. I can see why people get so, chronically addicted to Twitter. Having a bunch of eyeballs view your thoughts that you just type into the void.
It's addicting, yeah.
No shit. It is addicting and dangerous. Alright, folks. Once again, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week as we continue into part 3 of the history of Texas and Mexico. Part 4. Oh well. Y'all know what the fuck I mean. Who cares? Alright. Au revoir, everyone.
Goodbye.